honored to be here to share my journey to and through Seen and Unseen, a Sunday afternoon in Clarksville. So as a fifth generation Austin, Texas native, program administrator for the John L. Warfield Center for African and African American Studies, which is part of Black Studies at the University of Texas at Austin, and a writer whose work and research centers around the ways in which activism plays a role in the lives of Black women in the American South. This project was a natural extension of my work and passion in a way that compelled me to explore the historic community through a creative and hopefully thought-provoking lens. Seen and Unseen is a reckoning. It's a love letter, a prayer, an offering from and for Clarksville. Clarksville, a freedom community founded in 1871 in West Austin that, like so many others, was severely impacted by displacement and dispossession. These images speak to the attempted erasure of this small, close-knit community, as well as its beauty and resilience. And I should also mention that there's two different galleries that are part of the John L. Warfield Center, and this is the Idea Lab, and it's really constructed to be this intimate space for students to come in and for people to really interact with the work. And I purposely, you'll see there's different color walls kind of based on what the art is. Working with photographers, Hakeem, Adewumi, and Celeste Henery, who understood early on the scope and breadth of the project, and graciously allowed me to guide what they captured, to stand with me as both documentarian and witness to the geographical memory reflected through images of former residents and their families, historic buildings, architectural remains, found tools, toys, and household items. So as well included in this is a display of written and photographic evidence showcasing the tireless organizing and activism waged by the community. There's also a documentary that was made in 1970 in which residents of Clarksville basically expressed their frustration, their angst, their anger, and fear around various impending threats, most specifically the construction of Mopac Expressway that was built and ended up displacing over 71 families. So now I'm just going to talk specifically to a few images that really aided me in my journey and inspired me to create the exhibition the way I did. So this photograph is of Pastor Steve Manning outside of Sweet Home Missionary Baptist Church, also known as the heart and soul of Clarksville. And also, so the second part of the exhibition, A Sunday Afternoon in Clarksville, is a tribute to the important role that this church played in keeping the community together, focused, and vigilant. The church is still active, and these days, Sundays is the only time those who grew up in Clarksville read the Black folks that have been displaced from Clarksville. This is when they come back, which is part of why this exhibit is named after that. The congregation has been so welcoming, supportive, and encouraging of my presence there and this project. They have given me their trust, which continues to motivate and inspire me daily. This piece by Hakeem Adewumi is Mended Fence at Sweet Home. So on my early visits to Clarksville, I noticed one day this part of the fence that surrounds Sweet Home. And after further investigation, I realized what this is. Can you all tell what this is?
Bed springs?
Right. So they use bed springs to mend the fence. And originally this fence was made out of barbed wire. It's since been changed, but they left this in. This is a very historical piece, something very easily missed, walked past daily. It speaks to the strong sense of community, ingenuity, and simply making a way out of no way. This image alone was what sparked my approach to this exhibition. I discovered that instead of speaking for the people of Clarksville, which is what I was trying to do at first, like I'm gonna, have this kind of photographical display of gentrification and show pictures of homes now versus the homes before, which I think has its place, but it did not give voice to the folks that were there and fight to still be there. So instead of speaking for them, I let them speak for themselves and let them speak through the images. This is where the title Seen and Unseen came from. The next one, found bottles on a cistern. So I learned of the cistern, or well, on the now land of a current white resident who moved to Clarksville in the 1970s. The colored bottles found on the land triggered a sense of loss for me immediately, seeing them. Loss of family, of friends, of those who once called the land home, as a hurried and forced departure, or maybe even intentional action by leaving items in an attempt to be remembered, or a sign of protest. The cistern also spoke to me. It spoke directly to the 1928 master plan that destroyed several freedom communities, including Clarksville, in and around the city, by systematically denying services such as running water, flood control measures, street lights, and paved roads, in some cases up until 1978. Schools were closed and relocated across town, forcing students to travel through unsafe, hostile, segregated areas of Austin to get to and from school. Trash and sewage from surrounding white neighborhoods were dumped into these communities, and other heinous tactics were employed, all in an attempt to force these communities to move from the affluent West Austin to East Austin, which they named the Negro District, with the false promise that they would be safe, and have full amenities equal to those of the surrounding white neighborhoods. The next slide, generations, Cecilia Glasgow, Sylvia Dukes, and Madison Fresh. I met this family on my first day out with photographer Hakeem Adewumi. The mother of Cecilia Glasgow is part of the last generation of Clarksville natives to grow up there. Neither she nor her daughter nor granddaughter live in Clarksville. They were visiting a family member after church. This beautiful image is a bittersweet one to me. It symbolizes all the amazing people I met and stories shared with me through this exhibition, and the long-lasting relationships that have been forged. However, it also speaks to the fact that Clarksville, that was founded as a hush harbor, a safe space, a respite, a dream, a promise, a new beginning in 1871 is disappearing. Today, out of 165 single and multi-family homes, only 10 of them are occupied by Black families. And of that 10, only 4 families own those homes. This is the remains of Woodlawn Plantation boundary wall. So Clarksville was land originally that was part of a plantation called Woodlawn, which was owned by former governor of Texas, Elijah Pease. And it's very interesting because this part of Clarksville's history is something that people don't like to talk about and don't acknowledge. So it was really important to me that this picture was part of this exhibition. There was also a running narrative that this man, Elijah Pease, was a benevolent and kind person who treated those he enslaved very well. One that continues to come up often. Now get this, especially by the now all-white board that manages and oversees the Clarksville neighborhood. Today, the boundary wall sits in someone's front yard close to a commercial area full of businesses. It is passed frequently. One day I watched as people parked next to or near it in the neighborhood and hurried around the corner to yoga studios, high-priced restaurants, boutiques, hipster havens, and coffee shops. To my knowledge, few are aware of what the wall is or represents. So again, it was imperative for me to include this photo. However, after many tries, working with Celeste Henery, the photographer I just had, we couldn't get it. So out of frustration, I was like, let's call it a day. I went home and I just sat and I thought about it and prayed on it, meditated on it, and came back. I returned with candles from my ancestral altar and had a dear friend of mine say a special prayer in order to acknowledge and honor who was there, what happened at that site, and finally, this picture came from it. Oh, Lord, okay. So I just quickly wanted to show you this picture. I am a descendant of Clarksville. My grandparents met in Clarksville, my great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents from Clarksville. So this was just an amazing experience for me. And this is my mother, and these are her hands, and it was just such an amazing experience. And for us, this was a part of my family I didn't know a lot about. So and in many ways, it was a reconciliation. And this final photo is one that we took together, again, of remnants of things that were found in Clarksville that kind of speak to this idea of, again, of loss. Remembering, like someone's memories, broken symbols of home, once lost. Yet, at least for the moment, I always like to say they were safe in my hands, they were safe in my mother's hands. So if you want more information, please talk to me. There's a lot that I'm doing. This is the beginning of this project. There's a lot of pieces to it that are continuing. And I just want to say in closing that this experience and journey has been an invaluable and healing one. It has helped me to further locate and solidify my voice, to use my spiritual gifts, connection to the ancestors, commitment to art as activism and truth-telling, and how I approach the past and current narratives of people and communities throughout the Black diaspora. I've been refreshed and renewed to continue